Hey there, my name is Ray Livingston. I'm here, my home, which is behind me, in Elk, Washington. Um, some people asked me to do a video kind of telling about myself and my story, so here it is. See, I was born in Portland, Oregon, at Oregon Health and Sciences University. Uh, the first of two twins. I have a twin sister. And I grew up in Portland. Went to Chief Joseph Elementary School, Ockley Green Middle School, and then my dad was in a car accident that left him an amputee. And after that settlement from that accident came, it was the late 80s, and it was when all the gang violence and stuff was starting to jump off in the cities. And so my dad decided to get us the heck out of there. So he moved us to rural Gresham, Oregon, the east side of the Gresham, really almost to Sandy, Oregon, which was the gateway to Mount Hood. No street lights, no sidewalks, more cows than people, just a good country life. There I met one of my still best friends in the entire world, Jim Calcano. And his family got me into hunting, mostly because Jim was the oops child. He was a little bit younger than most of the rest of the family members that were out hunting, and so they kind of started bringing me for company for him. And we started off with waterfowl hunting and upland bird hunting, and I really enjoyed it. When I was back in Portland, I was already making bows and arrows and crossbows and trying to hunt anything that I could see around. And so when I had the opportunity to actually start hunting for real, I took to it like a duck in water. And after, a couple of years of doing waterfowl and upland bird hunting and stuff with them, Jim got a bow, and he wanted to start archery hunting. And he happened to have an extra bow. It was a who knows, no name brand, never knew the brand of the bow. It was a left-handed bow that I was shooting right-handed, and I was able to get proficient with it. And my first outing of archery hunting at 14, I harvested my first elk. And it sounds like a great accomplishment for a 14-year-old to harvest an elk with a bow. But man, I was still fresh out of the city. Only been up there a couple years. I'd never actually seen a live elk. And we were doing an elk drive, and the elk went out of the side of the drive, circled around, came back in at the back end of the drive where I and the rest of the standers were. And I'm a city kid, never seen an elk before. Now I am surrounded by an entire herd of elk. These animals the size of horses, the closest ones, 10, 15 yards from me. I'm just sitting by this tree. And I was able to keep it together enough to draw my bow back. And then after that, I kind of black out a little bit. I don't remember what happened. The arrow was released. The cow that I was shooting at didn't have an arrow in it. Then I looked, and there was a calf behind it that did have an arrow in it. A well-placed arrow, but it wasn't the elk I was aiming at, I don't think. Needless to say, we did harvest that elk. It was my first kill, was a 0-point bull with spots. And since then, my New Year's Day was marked by the beginning of archery season. So we hunted archery primarily for, all through high school. And Then I ended up kind of getting into sports, track and field specifically. Um, I ended up graduating high school as the number one rated track and field athlete in the country, and pretty much had a full ride to wherever I wanted to go. Uh, I chose the University of Oregon because their program it fit what I was. I was a decathlete, so 10 events over 2 days. Uh, and I kind of lost track of hunting for a while there until my senior year when I got injured, and I had a spinal injury and I'd lost basically feeling in one of my feet, and I would be out for about a month in the year that I was expected to win the national championship, and that NCAA national championship track and field event was at the Eugene track at the University of Oregon in Hayward Field. So I kind of was a little depressed, and I kind of went back to my roots and remembered that the forest was healing, and that's where I found my peace. And so I started spending more time in the forest there again, and picked up a bow, met the crew at the bow rack in Springfield, Oregon. And at that time, the bow rack was a little hole in the wall place, but with awesome people. Wayne and Lisa and Jamie were there at the time, and we would go and just sit there. It was kind of like Cheers, if I wasn't doing anything, I would go hang out at the bow rack, and we'd just sit and talk archery and life and everything. And I found a good fondness and a huge respect for Wayne and Lisa Endicott, and a lot of the folks that hung out at the bow rack there. So I started hunting again. Didn't have a whole lot of luck for those first couple of years, and ended up being getting onto the Eugene Police Department, and still hunted a bit through there. I was living in Springfield, Oregon at the time, and then I started kind of getting to know the area a lot better. And they say it's better to know one area real good than to know a lot of different areas. And so I started really spending a lot of time just getting out in the woods. With my ex-wife's family, her brother-in-law Trent, her dad. We went out a little bit. Scott Cardwell, her cousin, and Mike Ward and his family. Just spent a good amount of time up in that Little Fall Creek area, getting to know that area. And then my ex's brother, Kerry Pogemeyer, I'd spend time with him, and he showed me some areas up outside of Oak Ridge, and I found some great areas out there, and really spent all my time thinking about preparing for or actually hunting. And at that point, I was a horn hunter. I was looking for the big ones. I figured that if you never shot, if you never passed the small ones, that you would never harvest the big ones. And so I ate tag soup a lot of years, but I enjoyed it. Hunting is what fueled my fire and probably saved me. I kind of, going back to my dad moving us out of there, I was probably on a trajectory that would have probably put me in prison. Realistically, my life would have been very different. And that was one of the things I thanked my father for about a year before he passed. I knew he wasn't well, and so I wanted to make sure that I took the time to say the things that I needed to say to him before he passed. And moving us out there, taking my mother and her 3-month-old twins in after a first date. They met on the first date, And on the second date, he came and asked her. He told her, "I want to build a life with you." And who does that? So there's a whole lot of things to be grateful for from my father, but one of the biggest ones is getting us out of the city when we did, and really changing the trajectory of my life. And no one would probably guess that I would end up being the man that I am now. So over the years, I continue to hunt mostly, exclusively in Oregon. Uh, and so I would hunt all over the place. Really, I spent a lot of time in eastern Oregon, really, over in the Starkey unit, outside the little town of Pilot Rock. And I enjoyed that area. And I've met a lot of great people down in Pilot Rock. A lot of the landowners, Adolph and Katie Winke, Adolph now deceased, Tom Humphreys, and a lot of great people that I met, landowners out there that allowed me to hunt their property. And I harvested some great deer and elk from their properties over the years. Then I was in the corporate world. Believe it or not, I wore a suit and tie to work every day. And I ended up becoming a district rental manager for Penske Truck Leasing, which took me down to Sacramento, California. And I was there for about 2.5 years, and I got out a bit in Sacramento, got into the started getting into the wilderness areas, just trying to get away from the city and be in the forest a lot. So, I'd hike into the Trinity Alp Wilderness area, which is still one of my favorite forests on the planet thus far. And then McCollum Wilderness area, and the Desolation Wilderness area in California. Primarily chasing black-tailed deer, bears, and I was looking around Lake Sonoma. I was really trying to get a pig when I was in California, but through that time, I was still a high drive hunter, and and that I can say that it was a pretty toxic work environment down there, and I really didn't really fit in, I guess, with most of the people around. I just really couldn't find connections that with most people, and so I'd spend a lot of time out in the forest by myself, hunting, fishing, and living outdoors. After about 2.5 years, I moved back up to Oregon, and my wife and I, at the time, went our separate ways, and I went through a pretty good transition period. This was, somewhere around, hey, Fanny. This was around 2014, 15, and 16 were my big transformative years, and I had a very good friend, plus that we were best friends, and she wanted to kind of have a little bit more with the relationship, and I didn't think it was the right situation, and sooner or later she kind of had to distance herself from me, and even though I was like, listen, we're like BFFs, let's knock off the benefits and just remain friends. We like do everything together and go adventure together, and if it's too much to have both, let's keep the friendship. And she was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. It hurts too much. And so I kind of was done with people. I was like, people's value for you is only as much as they use you. They value the connection as long as they get what they want from the connection, not just enjoying the connection for what it is. And so I was like, I'm done. After my ex and I sold our house, I bought a little travel trailer and I dragged it 10 miles deep into the woods, and I lived out there. Still had to come in for work and to spend time with my boys and everything there, but I spent most of my time out in the middle of nowhere, 10 miles deep in the national forest. And there, by just sitting and observing and contemplating, I found my peace. I had some situations that people would call a vision, and in a very real sense, I met my demons in that vision and decided to embrace them. And at the time, I was just working on myself. And through that process, I really took the time and was able to change my default neural pathways from a victim mentality to one of strength, power, success, knowing that I can do anything that I put my mind to it. I could accomplish anything, that I was not powerless in this world, that I could be whoever I want and manifest the things that I want. And that's when my life really started to take a turn. Shortly after I decided to come out of the forest, the folks from the Alone show on the History Channel contacted me and asked me if I wanted to be a cast member on the show. While I had been doing search and rescue and taught myself wilderness survival skills so that I didn't die unnecessarily in the forest when I'm out by myself, I felt very unprepared for Alone, and so I kind of went on a crash course of preparing myself for the show, and I think I did a good job. I was on the show for 19 days and only left because I came to the realization that there was just not enough food to sustain me there. And I know some of the past participants that let themselves go to the point of emaciation. I knew that a lot of them were experiencing a lot of long-term health issues, and I wasn't willing to do that. So 19 days after realizing there wasn't enough food there to sustain me, I tapped out on Alone. And, I thought pretty much I tripped on the TV. I thought it was a one-time deal. I don't know how, I still don't know how I did it, but it was a cool experience, and it helped, again, shape my perspectives and let me see the world in a little bit different light, especially being able to fully detach from society and just immerse myself into the natural world. It really helped shift in my perspectives a whole lot. And I came back, and I was pretty done living in a city at the time. I was in Vancouver, Washington, and so I moved out to the middle of nowhere to a property 40 acres north of Kettle Falls, Washington. I was about 20 miles from the Canadian border, 40 miles from the Idaho border. And me and another ex lived up there. And it's a beautiful property. I was on the top of a mountain, had a beautiful view of the Columbia River from the top of the hill. Couldn't see it. The nearest neighbor was a mile away. Had a mile-long driveway that I had to keep plowed, but it was a good life. And my hunting focus really shifted while I was there as well. I wanted to get away, but one of the things about living so remotely was that I was no longer a horn hunter or a trophy hunter, I should say my trophy had switched, whereas I always utilized whatever animals I harvested, regardless of how big the horns were or not. But the real focus was on harvesting animals that to put in my freezer. But incidentally, during the time, I harvested some of the largest animals that I've harvested as well. When I kind of dropped the looking for a trophy. I'm looking for meat and big animals, trophy quality animals. What showed up. So after living out there a while, I was invited to do another little show on Nat Geo, which is Wilderness Survival with your dog. It was called Call to the Wild. I believe that's available on Disney Plus. And I was surprised I got into this little show again, another one. And then I got tapped on the shoulder to do a show co-starring with Donnie Dust called Mud, Sweat, and Beards on the USA Network. And that was a fun show. The way I describe it is dual survivor mixed with your favorite buddy cop movie, Lethal Weapon, 48 Hours, mixed with a pinch of Jackass. And it's just us living it up in the woods, having fun, working through the hardships from a positive perspective, and then showing what's possible when two people are working together in alignment. And so we had some great bushcraft shelter builds on the show, a lot of cool traps and whatnot. And then 2 years ago now, I got tapped to be on Mountain Men. So I filmed the season with Mountain Men and had a lot of great experiences with that crew. Unfortunately, I won't be on the next season 13, as the show. I got on because they had openings because the show split from Mountain Men, and it was split into two, from just the regular Mountain Men show to Mountain Men Alaska and the regular Mountain Men show. And they did that for one season, and I'm not sure exactly why. I would assume production costs, but they decided to recombine the shows after that one season. And I was on the wrong side of the bubble for making the cast, as they now had double the cast that they needed for a single show. So, I've just been living my life here since. I became a predator hunter. After I lived up here, and I've seen cougars and bears in the woods before, and I had never harvested a cougar or bear. I kind of watch them in awe and whatnot. And when I got up here, I started coming across my path how out of balance the predator population really was, and that was in relation with wolves in Idaho. And it kept coming up in my life, and when things continue to come up in my life, I start to pay attention and start to follow up. And I was like, I was torn about hunting wolves, and kind of pushed it aside a whole lot. And then it just kept coming up, so I started looking into it more and realizing how bad the imbalance was in Idaho and spreading to Washington and Oregon. And so I made up my mind that I was going to start hunting predators to help with that balance, but also they're the most difficult animals to hunt, to test and hone my own hunting skills. So I went out into Idaho looking for wolves, and did a bunch of scouting. I was there way too early, and the snow was still pretty deep, and I couldn't get to much of anywhere. And so I kind of came home and regrouped and thought about it and did more research and realized, wolves are the kind of animals you get one shot at. Like, if you educate them, you probably won't be able to employ the same tactics again with them. So I kind of backed off from hunting wolves at that point and decided to focus on things closer to home, and that was cougars and bears, mostly cougars. I still have a soft spot for bears. I say I've got one good bear in me. Like, I'm looking for a bear that is large enough that I could skin it out, tan the hide, and just put it on as a coat. So I'm holding out for my bear for that, but I am actively hunting cougars. To this point, I've harvested or helped harvest 4 cougars in the last 20 months. The first of which was on my first date with my girlfriend. And yeah, she came down, drove over from Rhode Island to hang out with me and see if we might start a life together. And I took her on a cougar hunt to see if she was up to the task of being my partner. And on the first full day that we were there, we harvested a cat. And we've been having a good go ever since. But then, I realized cougars were great eating, and we ate that cougar, and I kind of became obsessed with them. And I started guiding hunts as well, which meant during the regular ungulate season for deer and elk, I'm usually busy. But in Oregon, cougars are open all year round, and in Washington, they're open from September to April. And so outside of the regular traditional deer and elk hunting seasons, I still had a lot of time to hunt cougars, and they're my favorite things to eat. So I did so. I harvested my second cougar a month later, about a mile from where I did my first one in Oregon. And then the third cougar, I called in for someone else, and they shot it up here in Washington. And then 2 weeks ago, I harvested my fourth cougar at the home of a single mother and a kid that had been seeing a lot of cougar activity in the area. So I'm a predator hunter. Like I enjoy hunting deer and elk, but I really enjoy spending my time pursuing predators, especially in the current situation where they are overpopulated, and I do my best to try to hunt them in areas that they're causing problems or potential problems. I'm a realist and a conservationist, and I do love animals. And cougars out in the deep forest or just out living their happy cougar lives. That doesn't bother me at all. There's too many of them, but I would prefer to hunt them in situations where they're encroaching on people's property or depredating on their livestock or posing a risk to their families. And so that's what I generally try to do. And along the way, I've built some great partners. Origin Camo is one of my partners, and I'm a brand ambassador for them. Muskox Clothing, and I'm a good partner with them, and I promote their products as well. I do have a discount code at Go Muskox. If you're looking for some quality flannels, definitely check them out and use my discount code Ray Livingston to get yourself $20 off your order. I've got a relationship with Vortex Optics now, Fierce Firearms, Burger Bullets, and Freak Game Calls. And I'm real excited about the Freak Game Call. It's the first ultrasonic game call, and I used it to call in my last cougar. So most other calls play at the normal decibels that humans hear at. And as we know from the difference between a standard whistle and a dog whistle, animals hear much higher frequencies outside of the range of human hearing. And so the freak call is specially recorded in those frequencies and has a special speaker that plays at those frequencies. So you're putting out twice the sound amount, the stuff that you're not intentionally putting out with any of the other traditional calls. So far I've called in one cat on the first time I took it out, which is my last cat 2 weeks ago, and I've got a lot more planned with that. I'm also a brand ambassador just recently for Warbird Pro, and they make quality eye hearing protection as well as soft body armor. And I've got a discount code with them as well. It's Ray Livingston. If you check out Warbird Pro, definitely, using my discount code will get you 10% off. I was actually real impressed with their eyewear. It's ultra clear, like ultra clear, good for shooting in tactical situations, stylish enough to be worn every day. It's a great product. And again, I can't say enough about Origin Camo as well. Like, made completely in the USA. And I put it through its paces this first year. Took it through some pretty nasty, tough stuff, and I didn't get so much as a rip or a tear or a snag. It's made quality. I think it's reasonably priced as compared to some of the other big name camouflage brands, and I'm proud to be a supporter of them. And then Bear Bows as well has me as one of their brand ambassadors, and I'm definitely enjoying shooting the bow. I got one of their Execute 32s, and man, it's a smooth shooting, awesome bow, especially aligned with some heavy arrows. I'm shooting 200 grain heads, and so I'm testing some heads, and I'm going to be doing a broadhead test pretty soon, testing some heavy game heads. So I'm looking at the Annihilator head for one. Annihilator was kind enough to send me some, as was Vantage Point Archery, and then I got some Grizz Stick 200 grain Masai heads on my own. So I'll be testing those soon. But yeah, after selling my last house, me and my girlfriend now, we decided that we needed to be mobile. So we built this tiny home on wheels here. We got that inside. It's pretty much, we were going for trapper cabin. So we found this old, I think it's like a 1905 Hoosier. Got the Camp Chef oven and stove. Little boat stove going out with a water heater. Kind of got it set up. We did all the work ourselves and did all this in about 2 weeks. So it's a cool little place. It's sitting on top of a military trailer. And we pull it with that guy. So there's 44-inch tires on the trailer, 47-inch tires on the truck. And we've pulled it down to Oregon for the guiding season. And having it parked here at a friend's property on Elk. Our goal is to buy bare land, and we want to move that to be an initial home on the thing, and then we want to build tree houses. So that's a little bit about me. Oh, I forgot. SKB Cases is another one of my the brands that I partner with, and man, they provide and make some awesome cases. Those are most of my cases for my rifles. They're not always out here. I just had to move them, so they're hanging outside for a while, but they are waterproof, weatherproof, and keep my firearms secure, which is important because we don't have the space to have them inside. Normally I have them tucked up underneath the trailer. Well, that's a bit about me. I'm also the National Forgotten Rights Director for the First Hunt Foundation. And the First Hunt Foundation is the country's largest hunting mentorship organization. And so I spent a lot of my time mentoring new hunters, talking about the the importance of hunting in our world, in our community, and even in, as being a lost rite of passage for people in this day and age. So my program is focused on inspiring and recruiting more people of color into the hunting community, and increasing their visibility. I was struck by the fact that the participation of people of color in the hunting community is so low, and it's my feeling that if we exist today, that it's because our ancestors understood how to hunt, fish, and forage and provide for themselves. When we're celebrating our histories and our diversity and our cultures, whatever they may be, we spend time talking about the foods and the clothes and the dresses and the big elaborate ceremonies. But when it comes down to it, the reason we're here and the reason we're all here, regardless of your culture or background, is because your ancestors knew how to hunt, fish, and forage. So I do my best to inspire as many people of all ethnicities, colors, creeds, religions, places of birth to engage in learning how to feed themselves. I don't expect you to be a fanatical hunter like me, but to teach a man or a woman how to hunt, fish, forage, and feed themselves, so that they know and have that confidence that they will never have to go hungry if the chips are down. That's priceless. So that's a little about me and what I do and why I do it. That's the Cliff Notes version. But thanks for watching, and adventures afoot. I'll be doing something exciting pretty soon. Believe you me that. I'm on him. You ready, Jim?